Question 8. Add a set of brackets to make the calculation below correct. We've got 5 take away 2 times 3 plus 4 equals 13. Now, we've got 3 different operations here. We've got subtract, multiply, and add, and we're trying to make 13. Now, remember, with BIDMAS, the different operations, you have to do them in a particular order. Any brackets have to come first, any squared or cubed has to come second, divide and multiply a third on the list, and add and subtract a fourth on the list. Now, you might say, well, we don't need any brackets. Because if you just read this left to right, it already makes 13. But if you would say that, you'd be wrong. And we're going to discuss why. So 5 take away 2 is 3. And 3 times 3 is 9. And 9 plus 4 is 13. So you say, well, if you just read it left to right, don't need the brackets. But this is where the problem comes in. Because in BIDMAS, you have to do the multiply first. So if there are no brackets there, then what you'd actually do is you do the multiply first. You would go, you do the 2 times 3 first. So you go 2 times 3 is 6. Then you would drop down the 5 and the takeaway, and then you drop down the add and the 4. And when you've only got takeaways and adds, add and subtract are jointly important. So when you've got jointly important symbols, you just read it left to right. So then you would go left to right with this now. So you go 5 take away 6 is minus 1, and minus 1 add 4 is 3. So as it stands right now, where there's no brackets and you do the multiply first, as you should with BIDMAS, you're going to actually get an answer of 3, and that's not what we want. We want 13, and we're getting 3. So we've got to do something. We can't just leave it as it is. That's what we're saying here. If we just leave it as it is with no brackets, you'd end up doing the 2 times 3 first. It's almost like having a bracket around the 2 times 3 because you have to do that first. So if we're not putting the bracket around the 2 times 3, the bracket's got to go somewhere else. Now, there's only really 2 other options. Either put the bracket around the 5 minus 2, or put the bracket around the 3 plus 4. So what we'll do is we'll explore what happens in both of those situations. So if you put the bracket around the 5 minus 2, you would do the 5 minus 2 first, which is 3. You drop down the times 3, and you drop down the add 4. And then BIDMAS tells you to do multiply before add. So you do the multiply next. 3 times 3 is 9. Then drop down your add 4. Then you've got one symbol left. So you read it left to right. 9 add 4 is 13. And that gives us the correct answer. So it looks like that's where we need to put the brackets. We'll just double check that putting them around the 3 and the 4 doesn't also give us the same answer. We'll see. So if we were to do it this way, we do the 3 plus 4 first. If the brackets were to go here, 3 plus 4 would be 7. You drop down the 5, you drop down the takeaway, you drop down the times. Then you would do the times next, because multiply is M for multiply is higher on the list than S for subtract. So 2 multiplied by 7 is 14, and you would drop down the 5 and drop down the subtract. And when there's one symbol left, you read it left to right. So you don't do 14 take away 5 because that's right to left. You do left to right. So you go that way. So it's 5 take away 14, and 5 take away 14 is negative 9. So as you can see, that's not what we want either. So in the 3 possible places for putting the brackets, the only place that gives us 13 is this first one. So your brackets have got to go around the 5 and the 2. Not putting any bracket in isn't an option either, because we discussed that if you don't put any bracket in, you would end up doing the multiply first because of BIDMAS. So you can't just say that there's no bracket at all. It's got to go around the 5 and the 2.